Yeah, but just because something is in line with Israeli interest does not mean that that is the only reason why somebody would support that. The geopolitical considerations of the United States are far broader than what's good for Israel, and a lot of it is really to keep this war machine oiled and profitable. The invasion of Iraq, that is, you can make the case that was good for Israel. You can make the case it's bad for Israel. There's no clear benefit, but it was great for the war profiteers. Excellent for the war profiteers. Um, Toppling of Gaddafi in Libya. That wasn't for Israel. That had other geopolitical considerations. Trying to topple Assad. Again, Assad is not within the U.S. sphere of influence, so of course the U.S. is going to want to topple Assad, and they supported the rebels on the ground to do so. So this is all neoliberal politics that is not directly related to Israel or done for the sake of Israel. I think it's not really looking at things accurately. So when
I
I
completely disagree with everything you just stated.
so
Benjamin
real quick,
Netanyahu requested himself the intervention in Iraq. He was in front of Congress saying, please invade Saddam.
Bibi wanted that for sure, but it's not like Bibi gets to be the arbiter of truth of what's good for Israel or not. If anything, he's done.
Doesn't matter. He asked for it and he got it. That's my whole point. You keep talking about the intention of the Jewish people as if it's something that exists. All that exists really is there is certain Jews who have specific influences and they use it
So
in a way that is disadvantageous
you
to the American
you,
white population.
you think the United States invaded Iraq because of Bibi Netanyahu?
He is definitely among the causes.
So was it him or was it executives, uh, the executives at different military contractors that would get billions of dollars, or the shareholders, or their lobbying power? These people have a lot more influence over U.S. politics, and you could look at it in terms of how much money is spent on lobbying. The war profiteers, you want to call it the defense industry, uh, that's gonna, if you really want to understand U.S. foreign policy, you're going to get a much better understanding, a more accurate picture if you look at it through the lens of the military-industrial complex and not through the lens of Zionism or
You
the
claim
lens of.
this, but you haven't demonstrated it. And you haven't even demonstrated that these war profiteers aren't Jewish. And so, as far as I'm concerned,
Well, yeah,
I remain with my Zionist centered view because I know the facts of the Zionist centered view.
yeah,
Now, we should look into those companies and see if those CEOs are Jewish.
but
And I'd be curious to look into it.
you could look. Some are, most aren't. Most of the executives at the different companies aren't. Most of the shareholders aren't, unless they're, BlackRock is very Jewish, so some of them are owned by BlackRock. Um, but to say I haven't demonstrated it, the claim you're making is Bibi said invade Iraq, therefore we know that is why the United States invaded Iraq. But there's no reason to think that Bibi can have so much influence over another country. When what I'm proposing, I'm saying, look, actually, you want to say, look at the money, look at the people who spend the most money in U.S. politics, which lobbies have the most power, what are their interests, and then when you look at the actual result of U.S. policy in the Middle East, I think it's not hard to reach the conclusion that there's something, there's powers at work that are more powerful than the Jewish lobby and have more influence than the Jewish lobby. Now, the case could be made that they have similar interests, right? That what is good for the war profiteers is good for Israel, so therefore they are aligned. I think one can make that case. But to think that whatever the U.S. does in the Middle East is because of Israel just doesn't seem to be really grounded in reality. And when I talk about categories, when I say let's look at it in terms of socioeconomics, in terms of ethnicity, I have two reasons for doing this. Okay, one is I always want to use the more accurate category. So if there's an instance where the Jewish category is the most accurate in order to understand something, then I would say it's okay to use it. So part of it comes from accuracy, but the other part actually is we have a tendency to generalize people in groups, right? All forms of group hate is really seeing the behaviors of some in a group or experiencing some members in a group, and then we have a tendency to attribute that to a whole. So I think that the more we move away from categories that isolate certain racial, ethnic, religious groups in a way that is negative, I think the better off we're going to be. Because the more a group is hated, A, it's just negative for that group, but it also increases the pride in that group. So one of the things that fuels Jewish pride, and I'm not going to say this is the only thing, but one of the things that fuels Jewish pride is anti-Semitism. The same way we still have, the reason we have pride parades today is because, you know, the gay community are historically oppressed. If there was never any issue with homophobia and it was fine for forever, there wouldn't be a pride parade, there wouldn't be need. So pride of a people is enhanced by hate of that group, which to me creates, you know, just more division in society, groups viewing themselves as differently. So that's why I'm careful with how I categorize. I want what's most accurate and actually what's most helpful to building a cohesive society. So I'm okay with having there be a Jewish category, but there needs to be a really strong case that it is an essential category, and I'm just not seeing it, at least not in terms of foreign policy.